All right, this week, both chambers of Congress have left Washington for a 2-week recess. But when House Republicans return, their razor-thin majority that they hold in the House will shrink even further. Following the news that Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher will leave early, the Republican conference in the House will soon hold a mere one-vote majority when it comes to voting. And with the recent spending bill exposing fractures within the GOP, how will House Speaker Mike Johnson navigate this razor-thin majority moving forward? Joining me now to discuss this, Congressman Ron Estes. He serves on the House Committee on Ways and Means and the House Budget Committee and the House Committee on Education and Workforce. He represents the 4th Congressional District of Kansas. Congressman Estes, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Well, great. Thank you. It's nice to be back.
So you guys are working with a historically thin margin. How's that going to work out?
Yeah, it really is. And obviously, after the election in 2022, it was a thin margin to begin with. And, you know, through the normal course of the session, we have people that either take retirement or pass away, or other issues that come up. And so Speaker Johnson's been dealt a tough hand. You know, when he was elected Speaker, the problems didn't magically go away. He still has had to work to address some of these issues out there. And most recently, he's been trying to struggle through the fiscal appropriations for fiscal year 2024. And that's now behind him, that problem that he inherited. And so now we've got to focus on what do we do moving forward. And it's going to be a challenge for all of us as we focus on, particularly from a fiscal approach, is we can't continue down the same route we're headed on because the debt's continuing to grow, and there's lots of different ideas circulating among my colleagues about how to address that. But there's a growing recognition that we've got to do something about it, and I'm looking forward to being involved with Speaker Johnson as we work for the 2025 appropriations process and be able to make some of those first steps in making that happen.
You voted against the omnibus bill, the 6-bill package. I would have voted against it. In fact, I told the Speaker I was opposed to it because it had some bad stuff in it, a lot of bad stuff in it. But as you pointed out, the framework was already put in place when he came in. He had very little room to work with. And, you know, many people have said, well, we should have a government shutdown. And I discussed that with him, and I know he's discussed that with the conference. But at some point in time, you got to open the government back up. And with such a slim majority of Republicans, there's some Republicans that I think would never vote to open it back up under the conditions that would be presented. So in the end, you would probably have to negotiate with Democrats, and the end could be worse than the former in terms of what you would have to agree to.
It really is. I mean, the Speaker really had his hands tied going through that process. And as you said, there were a lot of bad things in the appropriations bills that just passed. I mean, not the least of which is just the amount of money. And even though it's talked about, it's 1.59 or 1.66. There's actually, when you look at the all-in spending for fiscal year 24, it's going to be $1.79 trillion based on all of that amount of spending. And then you look at there's so many of the other provisions, whether it dealt with funding, all these earmarked fundings for special pet projects by a lot of senators and even quite a few House members as well. There's just a lot of issues in there that we didn't want to fund the government on, and nothing to address fixing the issues with the southern border and the northern border too.
Right.
The issues that are going on there. So the Speaker had a tough road to deal with, and continuing resolutions aren't a good solution. No. A government shutdown doesn't solve those problems. So we've got to move forward from here.
And so going forward, working on the budget for next year, you're able to establish the parameters first. And get that over to the Senate and put them into a position to have to negotiate over what the House passes. So the dynamics change now. This will be a much better process to go through than what we just went through. But I want to ask you this question, Congressman Estes. Before you left, one of your colleagues, Marjorie Taylor Greene, moved to vacate the chair, not as a privileged motion, but just to kind of hang it over the head of the Speaker. Play clip 15, please.
I filed the motion to vacate today, but it's more of a warning and a pink slip.
Did the Republicans not learn their lesson in what we went through after McCarthy was ousted?
I haven't talked to Marjorie about what her thought process was in doing that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of issues that we need to address, and we've got the appropriations process behind us now for fiscal 2024. But we've got to address on other issues as well, and addressing the U.S. border security, addressing support for Ukraine, for Israel, for Taiwan, and there's mixed belief and preferences amongst the Republicans as well as amongst the Democrats in both the House and the Senate. And those are the issues now that we've got to pivot to while we're starting to work on the 2025 appropriations process. And hopefully we'll have calmer heads to move forward.
I hope so, because this is like playing with a loaded gun in a crowded room. I mean, with such slim majorities, you could actually, for the first time in the history of the Congress, Republicans could lose control of the Congress mid-session if they vacate the chair and the Democrats and a few Republicans get with them.
And that would be, well, it'd be historic if to happen. As you said, it's never happened before. I don't think certainly that's not what Republicans want. I mean, we want to move forward. We want to make some positive direction and changing some of the bad habits that Washington has been in for decades now. And that's the focus that we should be putting our effort into, and want to continue down that route.
Well, and I appreciate the fact, Congressman Estes, that is your focus, and you have held firm to your convictions and beliefs and your commitments to your constituents, and those are conservative convictions, which we also appreciate here at Family Research Council. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Great. Thank you.